Well, thank you very much. Dr. Mfume, thank you for reading just the way I wrote it. And thank you for all you do for me, give to me, and have been for me. I want to, if I might, do a couple of things before I formally thank everybody in here for being here. I just need to acknowledge two warriors that have been around and have fought a good fight in government. They've done it with dignity and pride and humility. And both of them are here tonight, kind of surprising me. So, former State Senator Joan Carter Conway, are you still here?
Yes.
Where are you, Joan? In the back? Okay. And the former chairman of the Montgomery County Council, George Leventhal. Stand up, George. I'm going to tell you something funny. Back in '06, when I was running against Ben Cardin for the Senate, George was the very first person who endorsed me, the very first. And he said, look, you need a white guy? Here I am. He said, I believe in you. And he stuck with me for 18 months through that campaign. I will never forget it, never. Thank you very much. And my thanks to all of you who've come out. I really am happy to see so many of you who I've known through the years, who I've struggled with and worked with. I got family members here that are all over the place. Family members, just raise your hand wherever you are. There they are, okay. All right, and for me at least, I want to do a couple of things because I don't want to keep you here all night. I do need to underscore much of what you've heard from a group of great people. Now, they've all snuck away and are standing in the back and on the side, but I honestly have never had a team of people to work with in all my many years in political office and in social work and in civil rights like this group that I have here. And I'm so happy and so blessed that we are working together, growing together, and I'm learning from them, they're learning from me. Please give them another round of applause. I want to just use this time to do a quick plug for those of you who are watching on the live stream. Just remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I can guarantee you that my Twitter accounts will not be anything like Donald Trump's. Follow us, and those of you who are in Howard County and in Baltimore County and in the city of Baltimore, we want all of you to know that this is a campaign of openness. This is a campaign of inclusion. We want people who will give us ideas. I've always believed that the best ideas come from the bottom up, not necessarily from the top down, because it's people on the ground who see things differently, who can teach us differently, and who we can learn from. And so whether you are black or white or Latino or Asian or Native American or old or young or city or county, whether you're a veteran, whether you're Christians, Jews, Muslims, it does not matter to me. What matters is trying to build a family that will lock this district together so that we're not divided by geographical lines and all the other foolishness that people throw in front of us. And to recognize that we are one family in this district together. I've said that over and over again. I will never stop saying it and never stop believing it. Because America, the America that we love, is not a blanket. One color, one shape, one texture. The America that we love is more like a quilt. Different colors, different sizes, different patches, all held together by a single common thread of democracy and faith and belief. And that's what I seek to represent when I go to represent all of you. Now, I was somewhere the other evening and somebody said, well, I don't know anything about you. I said, okay, that's an honest question. And I said, well, first of all, my name is Kwesi Mfume. Let's start with that. And I've served under 3 United States presidents. They said, oh, really? I said, yeah, I'm not saying it to brag. I'm just trying to tell you who I am and some of the things that I've done. They said, well, how long did you serve? I said, I served for 5 terms. And they said, did you have a close election? I said, my first close election was many years ago when I got elected to the city council by 3 votes. And y'all heard me tell that story again, that my grandmother, before she died, said, as long as you were black, which meant the rest of my life, just remember that was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And I never forgot that, and I never forgot her. But I answered his question. I said, so that was the closest race I had. He said, you didn't have close races when you ran for Congress? I said, fortunately, I tried to do what I thought was right, and I was reelected 5 times with over 80% of the vote each time. So I said to the gentleman, I hope that gives you some sense that, again, I'm not bragging, but I'm saying if I was that bad, some people would not be voting for me. I tried to deliver what I could, and I tried to be honest with people about talking about what I could not change. And he said, okay, well, what did you do when you were there? I said, well, I served as Speaker Pro Tem of the House of Representatives. He said, what does that mean? I said, you know the guy that's in the chair with the gavel? That was me. And so he said, well, did you ever chair a committee? And I said, yeah, I mean, why don't you, let me give you my resume, or I can write out questions you have. But he kept drilling me over and over again. I said, well, I chaired the Joint Economic Committee, which is the only committee of the United States Senate and House. I chaired a small business subcommittee. I was chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. He said, what'd you do with legislation? I said, well, I amended and passed the last civil rights bill to come out of the Congress. I authored and passed the Americans with Disabilities Act. I said, I've got 10 years of seniority. He said, well, that's the problem. It's seniority. We need fresh, young, new blood. And I said, now you're on my street. I said, let me tell you about seniority. First of all, you don't get it. You got to earn it. And I said that anybody getting elected today, and we've got a whole group of good candidates, all 23 on the Democratic side, and I will say the same thing about those on the Republican side. I said, but no matter what, if one of them gets elected to this office, they will not have the same amount of seniority until 2030, which means they've got to get reelected 5 times and survive and live that long. So I said, my seniority counts. And whether I get 100% or 99% or 95%, that's up to the Democratic caucus. But I go in with seniority, which elevates this district and elevates our ability to bring about true and lasting change for people. He said, well, I still think we need somebody new. I said, well, all right, let me tell you this and I'll stop. If you have to go next week and your doctor tells you you need heart surgery, and you can pick your heart surgeon, are you going to pick the heart student that just got out of med school to operate on you? Or are you going to look for an experienced person who has done this before and knows what they're doing? And I said, well, maybe it's not even heart surgery. If you've got to fly next week to go somewhere, you want to get on a plane really with somebody that just got out of aviation school and has never done it really, or do you want to get on with an advanced senior pilot with thousands of hours of flying time? So the point that I want to make is that seniority counts. It counts. It means something, and it should mean something. So I'm trying as best I can to make our case to as many people who will listen. I left the house today, and I had this strange feeling because I'm back at a point where I never thought I'd be again. People who know me will tell you that I've always said the best work I ever did was the work I did in the United States Congress. You couldn't ask for a better job because I never saw it as a job, but I loved it. But when I left at the request of Myrlie Evers, the widow of Medgar, to go try and save an NAACP which had lost half of its membership and almost half of its branches, I had to ask myself, are you really about public service, or you just like being called Mr. Chairman, sitting over here and having people run behind you? So I prayed on that, and the answer was, you have to do this. So when I did it and made the decision, I called Elijah Cummings. I will never forget this. It was almost midnight. To say, Elijah, look, I need to tell you something. I need you to sit down. He said, right, you always need me to sit down. I said, really? I said, tomorrow I'm going to announce that I'm giving up my safe seat in the United States Congress to go into an unsafe, uncharted area of trying to save the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization, because I think that's a part of my calling right now.
Talk to us.
I said, Elijah, what I need you to do is to get out of your safe seat in the legislature and to run for the Congress. And Elijah hung up the phone on me. It's a true story. You know, I got the same call from Parent Mitchell the night before he announced that he was going to give up his 7th congressional seat. And I said, okay, Parent, and I hung up the phone on him. So it was like deja vu all over again, if I can say that. But he called back and we talked, and Elijah said, man, that's serious. And I said, it is serious. So pray for me as I go out. Now, in that race, there were 23 candidates who ran. There are 24 now. Wow. Elijah, we all know, won the election and gave us 23 glorious years of service. Yeah. Absolute service. So when I was leaving the house, I said, only the Creator could take you out of this, and you think it's gone forever. And you've written it off in your mind, and it's just a chapter of your life, no matter how much you loved it. And taking you all the way around through public service and out of service and back in service and bring you back to this point now. So I grabbed my old congressional pen, the one they gave me when I got sworn into the 100th Congress. It was me and John Lewis and Floyd Flake and Mike Esper. We came in together. And Nancy Pelosi came in 6 months later. She did. It's a funny story. But that was the group that kind of bonded. And I said, let me just dust this off and put it back on. Because I'm ready to go back. And I'm ready to go back because we have real issues in this country that has to be confronted. And we don't need anybody at this time with the current president we have that's going to wimp out or play games. We have to be serious with a clear voice for people who don't have a voice. And they are black and they're white and they're brown and they're all over the place. But they need a voice, a clear voice in the Congress to serve as a firewall against the foolishness. Yes. We need health care reform in this country. Yes. We really do. It's not health care, Donald Trump, is not a privilege. It is a right. Yeah, right. We have to think of it as a birthright. So we've got to be able to talk about expanding Medicaid. And we've got to find a way to make sure that we're lowering the cost of prescription drugs and that we are making healthcare really accessible. And I've been going through some misery in the last 3 years watching the Obama health package just get whittled away by executive order and by turning the other way and by agencies that don't want to enforce it because they think they've got cover from the White House. We need somebody that's going to talk about safer streets and safer communities. And somebody said, well, you know, the Congress doesn't have anything to do with that. You darn right we do have something to do with it. We've got to raise the issue. Safer streets, safer communities. And so the idea of making sure that there are federal resources that will work in conjunction with state and local efforts to be able to fund, whether it's police, community policing, or centers for young people, or doing the sort of things that we have to do, we've got to have that voice. And then the other side of it is on us. If you see something, we got to say something. It's real simple on that side. If we see something, we have to say something, but we have to make the larger case that the Congress has a role, and the government has a role, and that we're prepared to demand safer streets and safer communities, and we are prepared to work for them. 500 murders over a year and a half, but more specifically, 348 in 1 year is just not acceptable. We will not accept it. And we just can't keep saying we won't accept it. We have to mean it. So when I see men and others going into the streets of tough neighborhoods to say no, no, no. If you do this, you're going to have to do it over top of us. That's where we need a congressperson that is serious and that will put themselves out in the middle of that and make the case. We need stricter background checks for weapons. And we need a psychological test within the test so that we're able to detect mental illness early on. So many of these killings these days have taken place by people who had legal access to guns but were not stable upstairs. But if we're just saying wait 7 days or 2 weeks and we'll give you the right to do it, we're missing a lot of efforts to stop things. When I was in the Congress, we passed a 10-year ban on assault weapons.
That's right.
And you may say, well, why was it 10 years? Because the votes were not there. We barely got that passed. But we said if we just get it passed even for 10 years, surely when it expires, the next Congress will be enlightened enough to make it permanent. Well, that expired in 2005, and in 15 years you can count the number of murders, the carnage that has occurred with assault weapons all across this country. Shame on those in the House of Representatives and in the Senate who could reauthorize this and pass it and make it permanent. Let me just say this about education, because I don't want this lost in the sauce. We have a serious crisis in public education. It is serious. Some of it is predictable. When you have fewer dollars and you're not doing the right thing to train and recruit teachers, and you're not doing the right thing to make sure that kids are going to school with a basic value system, and when you've got people who are in elected office who just want to kick the can down the road, some of it is understandable, because you have that behavior long enough, the educational system is going to go down. But there's no reason why we ought not find a way to embrace and protect the Disabilities Education Act for young kids who have disabled situations of all kinds, who are trying to matriculate with other students. There's no reason why we can't pass a school modernization act to take care of the aging infrastructure of schools all over this nation, where it's too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter for students to learn. We need new teacher recruitment and training, because the old teachers are lasting and hanging on for as long as they can, but they're just waiting for somebody to give the baton to. And if we don't make that a national priority, it will make itself a national nuisance. And we don't need it, we don't want it. We've got to find a way to protect and preserve the environment. I believe that Congress, at the very least, just like with healthcare, ought to recognize that the right to clean air and clean water is American birthright. It's an American birthright. We don't want any more Flint, Michigans. We don't want to eat away at the ozone as if it's not going to deal with us. We don't want to play games with emission levels from vehicles all over this country. We want to make sure that industries that are polluting the air that we have to breathe are regulated. But most of all, we want to make sure that the government enforces the existing laws, which they are not doing. They're not doing it. And they have, in many instances, no desire to do it, because they get a wink and a nod from the White House that it's okay, EPA, if you drag your feet. We need sensible and fair immigration reform, a real path to citizenship.
Yes.
A path to citizenship. That means we have to discourage illegal immigration where it hurts us, but we have to reward those immigrants that are coming here looking for a better life.
Yes.
They want a path to citizenship. We want to reward those who want to be citizens. And we gotta stop trying to find a way to take it out on kids that are 9, 10, 15, 18 months, years of age, just because they were brought here by somebody else. The way we treat them is the way we ultimately will be judged as a nation.
Yes.
And then finally, it's my belief, and I look at you in this room, and all I see are hardworking men and hardworking women, that we've got to find a way in the 7th to lead the fight for the right to unionize, to lead the fight for the right of working men and working women to work with dignity. I know everybody talks about a minimum wage, but at some point we have to elevate that discussion and talk about a livable wage with dignity and honor and respect. This is not a perfect nation, and we are not perfect people. But God calls us all, no matter how we worship, to a perfect mission. It's a mission to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, house the homeless, teach the illiterate, provide the leadership as a government, to listen, to learn, to make our bodies bridges as public officials so that people can run across and get to the things that they actually voted for. A lot of you used to say we can do better. Oh yeah? You're so right. You're so right. Racism, sexism, and anti-Semitism are wrong. I believe that, because we can do better.
Yes.
Black bigotry, brown bigotry, and any other kind of bigotry is just as cruel and evil as white bigotry. We've got too many bigots in too many places.
Yes.
We can do better
Yes.
than that.
Yes.
Gay bashing and immigrant bashing and union bashing, at the end of the day, deplete us as a nation. It robs us of our ability to make true and lasting change. I believe those things. I've been consistent with that. I say it over and over again. Sometimes people listen, sometimes they don't. But it's the same thing. Is it years old? Yes, it's years old. But it's grown out of a life of learning and a life of watching suffering and a life of understanding that we've got to find a way to try. Somebody said, well, why you say you're an old man. Why do you want to do this? And I said, look, you're really not old till you're cold. I got as much energy as I had when I was half my age. I like this. I like fighting for what's right. I like giving people hope. I like working with young people. I like making my body a bridge. I want to go back, not for me, but for our district, to unify it, to bring it together, and to stand up and set an example for the rest of the United States. I need you.